In 2018, there was this skincare brand that achieved, just a level of sheer dominance
Yeah.
that massive, century-old cosmetic conglomerates literally spend billions of dollars trying to engineer.
Right, and the crazy thing is, the packaging wasn't even glamorous at all.
No, not at all. It came in these incredibly clinical, minimalist dropper bottles. But, I mean, the demand was just staggering.
Absolutely. At their peak, they were selling one product every single second of the day.
Yeah, every single second. And when they relaunched this basic, I think it was a $6 salicylic acid serum, it amassed a wait list of 400,000 people.
Which is just wild for a basic acid serum. It wasn't just a successful product launch. It was a full-on cultural frenzy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet, at the absolute height of this explosive success, the founder of the company just grabs his phone, records this frantic, rambling video on Instagram, broadcasts it to hundreds of thousands of followers, and literally orders the immediate total shutdown of his own empire.
It really remains one of the most stunning paradoxes in modern retail history, I think. You have this brand built on absolute, rigorous scientific rationality, but then it unravels in a deeply public, profoundly irrational way.
Well, welcome to More Taste Than Money. In today's deep dive, we are unpacking a story that starts with brilliant code, ends in unthinkable tragedy, and really just forever changed what you look for in the skincare aisle.
We're talking about the business phenomenon of DECIEM, and obviously its crown jewel, the ordinary.
Right. We're going to get into how a computer scientist essentially hacked the multi-billion-dollar beauty industry, how the pursuit of radical transparency completely revolutionized consumer psychology.
And of course, we have to analyze the really chaotic unraveling of the visionary founder who built the whole thing.
Yeah. So to really grasp the mechanics of how the ordinary just broke the beauty industry, we first have to understand the specific blind spot its founder, Brandon Truaxe, identified.
Because what he saw was something the rest of the industry was, either entirely ignoring or actively trying to hide from the consumer.
Right, because he didn't look at the beauty counter the way a cosmetologist or like a traditional marketer would. He looked at it like a software engineer who had just spotted a massive bug in the system's code.
Which makes sense given his background. I mean, Truaxe was born Ali Roshan in Tehran, moved to Canada as a refugee, and ended up studying computer science at the University of Waterloo.
Yeah, his entry into the beauty world wasn't through makeup artistry or fashion at all. It was actually through this really formative internship back in 2001.
Right. He was brought in to analyze software for a major cosmetics lab in New York.
And that gave him unprecedented, totally unfiltered access to what's essentially the black box of skincare economics.
Exactly. He was basically a 20-something kid making a couple $100s a week, but he was reviewing all the regulatory and chemical interactions for these super high-end products.
And as he looked at the raw data, he noticed this just staggering discrepancy between what things cost to make and what they cost to buy.
He was looking at the formula for a cream retailing for $1,000, and he realized the actual raw ingredients cost about $2 to manufacture.
Wait, okay, a $2 manufacturing cost for a $1,000 retail price. I mean, that is a 50,000% markup.
Yeah, it's just astronomical.
If I'm looking at that, I'm immediately thinking the industry is fundamentally broken.
And that's exactly how he felt. It completely disillusioned him. He realized that the vast majority of that jaw-dropping price tag was purely what we could call a fame tax.
A fame tax, right?
Yeah, because when you buy a luxury cream, you are basically paying for the marketing machinery. You're paying for the celebrity endorsements, the glossy television campaigns, the premium glass jar.
Right, and the massive retailer margins. The actual functional ingredients, like the science inside the bottle that actually changes your skin, represented just a negligible fraction of the cost.
Exactly.
If you think about this through his lens as a software guy, he realized the base code, which is the active chemicals, was cheap.
Cheap.
So he was looking at the consumer and asking, why are you paying hundreds of dollars for a fancy user interface?
That's a perfect analogy.
Right. Like the luxury jar and the celebrity face smiling on the box are just the UI. The raw code does the exact same thing, and it literally costs pennies.
And taking that software idea further, Truaxe basically wanted to open source those ingredients. I mean, the industry's mantra for a century had been selling hope in a bottle.
Selling a lifestyle, yeah.
Right. But Truaxe wanted to expose the underlying unit economics of the aesthetic industry. So after a few earlier ventures where he learned the ropes of the business...
He actually created a luxury line called Uoko, right? And another brand called Indeed Labs.
Yeah, exactly. But after that, he decided to shift gears entirely and just tear the whole system down. So in 2013, he teamed up with Nicola Kilner, who was a former beauty buyer for Boots in the UK, to launch DECIEM in Toronto.
And the name DECIEM comes from decima, right? The Latin word for 10.
That's right.
Which represented their completely wild, frankly unthinkable ambition to act as a brand incubator and launch 10 beauty brands simultaneously.
Which completely ignores standard venture capital dogma. I mean, every business textbook tells you to focus on a single hero product, perfect it, and scale it.
Yeah, but Truaxe believed that hyperfocus was actually a massive vulnerability.
His philosophy was that if you launch one brand and customers don't resonate with it, the whole ship goes down. You're bankrupt.
Right.
But if you launch 10 completely different concepts, ranging from hair care, like Grow Gorgeous, to an anti-aging hand cream brand, you can test the market in real time and just see what gains traction.
It was essentially a structural manifesto against industry norms.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Having a revolutionary idea is completely useless if you're reliant on the old system to execute it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if you want to sell products at cost, you can't use third-party manufacturers. If you're using contract labs, they're taking their cut, the packaging middleman is taking a cut, and suddenly your disruptive, affordable prices aren't so affordable anymore.
Exactly. To offer that level of transparency, DECIEM had to literally own the means of production.
We really need to pause here and look at how the beauty industry actually operates behind the scenes, because it highlights why DECIEM was so radical.
Yeah, most people don't realize that most beauty brands don't make their own products. They use contract manufacturers, which are these massive anonymous labs in places like New Jersey or Milan.
Right. A brand will go to these labs, pick a pre-existing formula off the shelf, maybe tweak the fragrance, slap their logo on it, and mark it way up.
But DECIEM totally refused to do that. They brought almost everything in-house in their Toronto hub.
Yeah, we are talking 5 specialized laboratories, 22 chemists on staff, GMP-certified manufacturing, PR, e-commerce, everything under one single roof.
Let's clarify GMP for anyone not deep in the manufacturing weeds. What does that actually mean?
Right. So it stands for Good Manufacturing Practice. It's this rigorous system ensuring products are consistently produced and controlled according to strict quality standards.
And it is incredibly expensive and complex to build a GMP-certified facility from scratch. Most startups avoid it at all costs because the initial capital expenditure is just massive.
But by owning the actual kettles where the product is mixed, they completely bypass those 40 to 50% middleman markups.
And the speed that this gave them is what blows my mind.
Oh yeah, the industry standard to develop a new cosmetic product from an idea to getting it on the shelf is usually 1.5 to 2 years.
Right. But DECIEM slashed that down to weeks, literally weeks.
It's insane. If they saw a trend emerging on skincare blogs, they could have a product formulated, manufactured, and shipping before legacy brands even scheduled their first marketing meeting.
And this incredibly agile infrastructure is what paved the way for their masterstroke. In 2016, they used this setup to launch their 11th brand, The Ordinary.
The Ordinary, yeah.
And The Ordinary took that software analogy to its absolute logical extreme. They stripped away all the marketing fluff, all the poetic names, and sold active chemicals by their actual scientific names.
Right, so instead of calling it, like, Miracle Glow Night Potion, they called it niacinamide 10% plus zinc 1%. Or lactic acid 5% plus HA.
And they put them in those basic clinical dropper bottles for under $10.
See, I have to stop you there, though, because as a consumer, this makes no sense to me on paper.
Really? How so?
Well, if I'm going to buy skincare, I want it to feel like a spa treat. I do not want to feel like I'm studying for an AP chemistry exam.
That's a fair point.
Right. Weren't they terrified of alienating everyday buyers who just want to be pampered? I mean, isn't it a massive risk to assume everyday shoppers actually want to do homework?
It definitely seems counterintuitive, but it was actually a masterclass in reading the shifting cultural landscape.
Okay, how so?
What The Ordinary did was shift the burden of education onto the consumer, and they timed it perfectly. By refusing to dumb down the language, they tapped into an emerging, highly informed demographic.
You mean the people already gathering on Reddit skincare boards and eventually TikTok?
Exactly. So they basically treated the buyer like an intelligent peer.
They assumed the consumer was smart enough to figure it out.
Yeah, and people absolutely loved being treated with that level of respect. By providing these extensive layering guides and ingredient glossaries online, they created a massive wave of brand trust.
Which triggered a psychological phenomenon known in business as the service recovery paradox.
Right. Explain how that applies here, because usually that means a customer is more loyal to a brand that makes a mistake and fixes it well, compared to a brand that never makes a mistake at all.
Right, well, in this case, the industry itself made the mistake. Consumers realized they had been historically tricked by luxury beauty marketing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, imagine you've been paying $80 for a hyaluronic acid serum for years, and then The Ordinary comes along, explains exactly what hyaluronic acid is, and proves it can be sold profitably for $7.
You'd feel totally betrayed by your old brand.
Exactly. When consumers realized they'd been overpaying, their loyalty fiercely transferred to the brand that exposed the trick. They felt DECIEM had fixed the industry's wrong.
It's like finding out you've been paying a massive premium for a brand name medication when the generic does the exact same thing for pennies.
Yes. The trust you build with a generic provider becomes basically unshakable. And honestly, the strategy worked almost too well.
It really did.
They sold 2 million units over their first 3 years and then just exploded to 8 million units in 2017 alone.
But selling a $7 serum is kind of a double-edged sword. When your margins are that thin, you only survive on massive volume.
Right, and when you're selling millions of units overnight, you suddenly face a terrifying new problem: your own supply chain.
They were constantly out of stock, customers were getting desperate, and competitors were starting to copy them left and right.
The infrastructure they built in Toronto was revolutionary, but it physically couldn't handle the sheer volume of global demand. They needed major capital to expand their factories.
Which brings us to the Estee Lauder Companies, or ELC. In June 2017, this ultimate traditional beauty conglomerate bought a 28% minority stake in DECIEM for $50 million.
You know, this feels exactly like an underground indie punk band suddenly signing a massive deal with a corporate record label.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like.
Can you really take corporate money without eventually losing your anti-establishment ethos? I mean, Truaxe publicly praised ELC for embracing DECIEM's disruptiveness, genuinely believing he could take their money while maintaining total independence.
The fundamental business tension here is just fascinating because it was a marriage of absolute necessity for both sides.
How do you mean?
Well, ELC desperately needed DECIEM. They needed a digitally native gateway to millennials and Gen Z, which were demographics that their legacy brands were really struggling to capture.
Right. And meanwhile, Truaxe desperately needed their capital to fix his buckling supply chain.
Exactly. But crucially, because ELC took a minority stake, they had no legal control over daily operations or, and this is important, DECIEM's social media channels.
And that lack of corporate oversight collided tragically with the immense, isolating pressure of running a booming global empire.
It really did.
What started as fearless disruption quickly spiraled into one of the most chaotic public unravelings in modern business history.
It serves as a stark, somewhat harrowing reminder of the key man risk inherent in founder-led businesses.
Key man risk.
Yeah, key man risk is the danger a company faces when its success is overly dependent on one specific individual. In early 2018, Truaxe threw out the corporate playbook entirely.
Yeah, he took personal control of DECIEM's Instagram account, broadcasting directly and completely unfiltered to over 370,000 followers.
He even dropped the CEO title altogether. He insisted on being called a worker, claiming that responsible people don't need CEOs.
And the posts became deeply erratic. It started with industry attacks, right?
Yeah, he posted that one would have to be, quote, drunk to overpay for drunk elephant's marula oil.
Which is directly targeting a massive competitor.
Right. Then it escalated wildly. He began abruptly firing his co-founder, Nicola Kilner, firing the entire U.S. team, and severing ties with long-term suppliers, all via Instagram captions.
The feed just devolved into bizarre videos of garbage in Morocco, pictures of dead sheep to protest animal testing, and these rambling, distressed videos from hotel rooms.
He was publicly airing internal grievances and personal struggles in real time, completely bypassing PR departments.
This is where I have to ask the hard question about startup culture. Why didn't Estee Lauder step in the second he started attacking competitors on Instagram?
That's a great question.
At what point does radical authenticity cross the line into a dangerous lack of professional boundaries? It really feels like the business world enabled him by initially celebrating his strange behavior as genius disruption, until it was far too late.
You're touching on a massive vulnerability in modern business culture. We have this toxic tolerance for eccentric founders. I mean, think of the early days of Elon Musk or Adam Neumann at WeWork.
Right, right.
The industry often overlooks glaring warning signs under the guise of disruptive genius, just as long as the revenue is growing. ELC was caught in a financial trap.
Because the exact rebel energy that was making DCM worth $1 billion was the same energy unraveling the founder.
Exactly. If they step in too early and corporatize him, they kill the golden goose.
But the golden goose was clearly suffering. Truaxe's brilliance was undeniable, but as reports of severe mental health struggles and substance use began to surface,
Including his own admissions to the media about using psychedelic mushrooms and crystal meth, unfortunately.
it became clear that the company's greatest asset had become its greatest liability. The crisis reached its absolute climax in October 2018.
That's when Truaxe posted a shaky, highly emotional video from a hotel in Amsterdam.
And he ordered all DCM stores and operations to shut down immediately. He alleged widespread financial crimes within the company and among his own shareholders, including the ELC executives.
He even replaced the company homepage with an entirely red screen.
A founder unilaterally shutting down a business that was tracking toward $300 million in revenue via an Instagram video is virtually unprecedented.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it forced the corporate elephants to do something they desperately wanted to avoid. Estee Lauder had to take legal action to remove Truaxe from the very company he built.
Which is not easy to do.
No, the legal threshold to remove a founder is incredibly high, but shutting down the retail operation gave them the fiduciary grounds to actually act.
So an Ontario judge granted the injunction, stripping Truaxe of his CEO title, barring him from the premises and social media, and crucially, reinstating Nicola Kilner as the sole CEO.
And an independent investigation by PricewaterhouseCoopers later found zero evidence of any of Truaxe's claims regarding financial crimes.
It was a necessary, drastic intervention to save the jobs of hundreds of employees and the company itself. But, the story takes a deeply tragic turn just months later.
It does.
In January 2019, Brandon Truaxe died at the age of 40 after falling from his Toronto apartment.
It's just incredibly sad. You have this brilliant, singular mind who fundamentally changed an entire industry, and it ends in such profound tragedy.
Yeah. But looking at the aftermath, it's really a testament to resilience that Nicola Kilner, who, remember, was pregnant when Truaxe abruptly fired her via email, came back to save the company.
It's amazing.
It proves that behind the cold, hard numbers of a billion-dollar acquisition, this company survived because of profound human empathy and leadership.
Kilner provided the emotional stability the team desperately needed. She anchored the traumatized company with a culture of kindness and compassion, while Estee Lauder provided the structural and financial safety net.
And by 2024, ELC acquired DECIEM fully, bringing their total investment to roughly $1.7 billion.
And despite the corporate buyout, they chose to honor his creative spirit in a very unique way.
Yeah, DECIEM preserved Truaxe's avant-garde personal passion project, a fragrance brand called Avestin.
They left the single store in London exactly as he designed it. They operate it with no PR and no e-commerce, strictly as a living memorial to his creativity.
It's a beautiful tribute. And his legacy extends far beyond a single brand or memorial. He forced legacy giants to adapt to a reality they didn't want to face.
Oh, totally. We now see an entire landscape of clean and lean beauty models.
Right, brands like the Inky List and Good Molecules emerged, using the exact blueprint of low pricing and clinical transparency that Truaxe pioneered.
Even legacy giants started aggressively pushing brands like CeraVe, focusing on single-note actives and dermatological integrity, basically directly responding to the market shift DECIEM created.
The power dynamic fundamentally shifted. You are no longer just a passive buyer of whatever luxury story they sell you. You are treated as a student of science.
The expectation of transparency is now the baseline, not the exception.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for this deep dive. The next time you are standing in the skincare aisle, look closely at the packaging.
Yeah, ask yourself, are you paying for the chemical efficacy inside the bottle, or are you just paying a fame tax for the celebrity smiling on the box?
Once you see the matrix of beauty pricing, you really can never unsee it.
It shatters the luxury illusion entirely. Once you realize the ingredients are just commodities, the spell is basically broken.
So to help you navigate this new world, I want to share a quick recommendation. I highly suggest downloading an ingredient decoding app like INCI Beauty or Yuka.
Oh, those are great.
Right. You can literally scan products right there in the drugstore aisle. And the app cuts straight through the marketing slough, telling you exactly what the active chemicals are and what they actually do. It empowers you to act a little bit like Brandon Truaxe, demanding transparency right at the shelf.
I love that. And if you want to understand the mechanics of why we still fall for that luxury illusion in the first place, I highly recommend reading up on the psychology of luxury pricing, specifically looking into the concept of Veblen goods in the cosmetics industry.
Hold on. For those of us who maybe skipped Econ 101, what exactly is a Veblen good?
It's an economic concept where the demand for a product actually increases as the price goes up, simply because the high price makes it a status symbol.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, think of a Rolex watch or a $1,000 face cream. The high price isn't reflective of the costs to make it. The high price is the feature. It will fascinate you to see how our brains are wired to believe that a higher price tag inherently equals better product, even when the underlying science proves otherwise.
It's all about breaking the code. From a $2 formula marked up to $1,000 to a chaotic genius who demanded we pay attention, the beauty aisle will truly never be the same.
Definitely not.
Keep questioning the label, and we'll see you on the next Deep Dive.